Like ready. Hey guys, what's up? It's Silver Eagle, and today we're gonna be watching some live videos. Let me just give me a minute to reset that. Okay. It's a bit hard for me to do this sometimes, so just bear with me, okay? I think this is this. Okay, yeah, this is not working. So I'm gonna try and do this as easy as possible. Just give me a minute, okay? Let's see here. If I am trying to share the screen, I don't know what to do now, guys. And like, I'm trying really so hard. If we just share the screen, is that working out well? Guys, I'm not sure what's going on. This is not working. Like, okay, look, I'm trying so hard to know how to do this. It's just like somehow it has to work. Like, guys, help me. How do I do this? Okay, I think I got it. There we go, guys. I got it. I got it. I got it. All right, let's get into it.
Kids or something. One night, I get home after having drinks and dinner with some friends. It was late, around 10 p.m. We often left the back door open to let the dog come in and out. We always just kind of assumed that the dog would scare away anyone from breaking in. How naive. When I got into the kitchen, which was next to the back door, I hear the dog barking in the back.
Hold on, guys. This is wrong video. Hold on. Let's find something that we haven't saw yet. And I don't know what we have watched and have not watched. But yeah. We're gonna watch something, and I want you guys to bear with me. Bear with me. Bear with me, please. Bear with me. They may be true. They may not be true, but at least they're good.
Wix gives you the freedom to tell your story.
Let me skip that real quick.
With a professional website.
You guys see me when I'm doing this?
This happened when I was a kid. I was in the 5th grade, and my friend, let's call him Ethan, invited me over to his place. He lived right by the ocean, and if you walked through the forest for half a mile, you'd reach a nice beach with a diving board. When I got to his house, we hung out, played video games, and talked. You know, typical kid stuff. Then we decided to go to the beach. It wasn't too far away, and we knew we could get back in time for dinner, so we set off. To make the trip more adventurous, we decided to bushwhack our own path. After walking a couple of minutes, we hit a tall fence.
Yeah, you hear me, right?
Crap, Ethan exclaimed.
We'll get it.
Well, I guess we'll have to go back. Suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I spotted something. The fence went about 8 meters long and then stopped.
Did you guys
My
hear
jaw
me better
dropped.
with the thing mic on?
There was a
I'm not
house.
sure if you guys can.
It was an
but
old
bear
cabin
with
with
me.
boarded
It's
up
like
windows.
everything we paid for.
The planks were falling
Like,
off,
I
and you
can
could
hear
see the old insulation underneath. It was gray in color
It's
and had
kind of,
flecks of blue
easy to
paint.
hear. If you can hear me,
The
it's mic,
fence
just let me
led
know.
up to the side of the
Okay.
house, stopped, and then continued on the other side. What
Sorry,
scared me the
I think that
most was that there was no road. I mean, not even a clearing to get to the
I, mean,
road.
I could use
You'd
it,
have to
but,
walk 20
I
minutes.
don't really want to. Anyway,
Kevin, come
know.
on, Ethan yelled from behind me. Look at this, I shouted back. Ethan walked up to me, and his jaw dropped. There was no door, just a frame, and peering through the frame, we could see that there was a back door, also with no frame. All we had to do was walk through the house, then we could get to the beach. I looked at Ethan. Should we do it? I asked him. He shrugged. I don't see why not, he responded. Inside the house was dark, despite the sunlight pouring in through the door. We advanced slowly through the house, and Ethan pointed to the door. As we reached the door, I peered up the stairs. I grabbed Ethan and shoved him out the door. What was it? He said, as soon as we got away. My whole body shook. I must be going mad, I thought to myself. Eventually, I explained it to him. As we reached the door, I wanted to take one last look at the house. I glanced up the stairs and I saw the shadowy outline of a person. All I could see were eyes staring back at me and a crooked grin. Ethan and I took another route back home, and we told Ethan's mom. She laughed at us and said she'd been that way many times and there was no house. And we were angry because she didn't believe us. So we got out our cameras and went back the next day. When we got there was no house. It was just gone. No clearing, nothing. To this day, Ethan and I still wonder what it was. Was that man just a homeless person, or maybe he was something much, much worse? I suggested to Ethan a theory that scares me to this day. I had been reading about Russian folklore, and a page caught my attention. It was a story about a witch named Baba Yaga who had a moving house. She would eat naughty children, and parents used to use it to scare children. Was this a witch? I guess we'll never know for sure.
Okay, guys, before we continue, never, ever, ever go out to the woods and go to some creepy house, because you never know what it might be. All right, let's do another one.
I was in my early teenage years during this time. My family and I went on vacation in a village which had a forest rumored to be haunted. There was a cemetery in the forest. It was a little far away from the village, near a lake. We weren't actually supposed to go to that forest, but my cousins thought it would be fun to play hide and seek at night. We were given some rules. We weren't allowed to take our phones or flashlights with us. As planned, we all met in front of our farmhouse at midnight. Me and my younger sister, who was 7 years old at that time, were the youngest out of everyone. So my older cousin decided to help us hide. He was 22 at that time, and he wanted to make sure we didn't get lost. After we chose who was going to be the seeker, we parted ways, trying to find the best hiding spot. My older cousin just wanted to win, so he took us to the cemetery. He said, "She'll obviously be too afraid to enter the cemetery. I think this will be a best hiding spot for us." Although my younger sister kept telling us not to go there, we shut her off, telling her she was just a kid and would make us get caught. To this day, we wish we would have listened to her. It was getting darker. It was almost 2 a.m. Then all of a sudden, the cemetery lights went out. My sister's hand tightened around my hand. My cousin was obviously scared too. We could only hear the sound of wind and stray dogs barking at the backside of the cemetery. But then we heard digging noises. I still remember that horrifying sound. At a distance, we could see an old man with ruffled hair and dirty clothes, digging a grave with his bare hands. He was making hissing noises while he dug. All of us stood there frozen. We didn't know if we should scream or run away. My cousin held our hands and started to slowly lead us to the entrance, trying not to make any noise. He whispered, "We have to get out of here." My sister was almost on the verge of crying. But to ruin everything, I stepped on a broken branch, making a loud noise. The stranger shot up his head toward our direction, and his lips curved in a creepy smile. "Run!" my cousin yelled, quickly picking up my sister and running away as I followed closely behind them. Thankfully, the man was weak and couldn't run any faster. He stopped at the middle of the cemetery staring at us with his hazel eyes. A few days later, we found out that the man had been caught by the police. He was a criminal who dug up dead bodies, stored drugs in them, and sent them off to other nations to sell drugs. He was caught once, but successfully escaped. If he wasn't so old and weak, I'm afraid that we might have ended up being a couple of dead bodies too.
Activating programming. Great idea!
Okay, this is the ad, but never ever go to a camp or the graveyard, and never go out in dark. Bring a flashlight or phone, and never hide in the graveyard. It's just like not a good idea. Never ever, never hide in the graveyard. It's a super bad idea. Trust me. Like never ever hide in the graveyard. I know people think, hey, let's hide in the graveyard. It'll be fine. No, it's not fine. Never hide in the graveyard. All right, let's wait for the ad to pass and we'll go for another one.
Look your fears right in the eye.
Let's watch this one.
Hi, my name is Alyssa, and I'm 15. A few months ago, something strange happened to me. To this day, I can't explain exactly what happened. I was relaxing at my house, doing some schoolwork on my laptop. Being home alone never bothered me until then. After about 2 hours of being alone, I decided to go get some ice cream from the freezer. As I headed back with ice cream to my room, I heard someone bang on the front door. I never answer the doors, and I always make sure they're locked when my parents leave. I decided it was the mailman, and that he would set the package down and leave.
At night?
Then I heard the bang again, but louder. I was confused, so I went to my dad's office since it had a window facing the front porch. The second I grabbed the door handle of his office, my parents' bedroom door slammed shut right next to me. I screamed. Our air conditioning was broken at the time, so there was no way it could have been the air. I looked at the door, ran to the other side of the house, and called my mom to see if she was expecting anyone over. "No, Alyssa," she said. And those 2 words made my heart beat faster than it ever has. My phone disconnected, and I started hearing footsteps coming towards me from down the hallway. I ran and hid behind a door in our living room. I knew I'd be out of sight, since I used to hide there as a child.
Not really. I'm not
I called
scared.
my close friend, Emily,
I'm not
who
scared.
always knew how to calm me down in crazy situations. She told me to go and lock myself in my room. As she was talking, I started to hear doors open and slam shut along with footsteps, and the voice of a little girl saying, "I'm going to find you," over and over. I started crying, and when the noise stopped, I ran to my bedroom door. When I grabbed the handle and was about to go in, I heard it again. The little girl was in my room and said, "Come here, Alyssa. I want to play. Come here." I ran to the guest bathroom and locked myself in. I started to hear knocking on the bathroom door and the voice, "Don't you want to play, Alyssa? We could have a lot of fun." I started screaming back, "Hell no, just leave me alone." She started laughing. The knocking and laughter grew louder and louder, and then it started sounding like that thing, started to walk away, still laughing and knocking. Then I couldn't hear it anymore. My grandpa came into the house yelling, "Alyssa, it's Grandpa. You can come out. You're safe." I ran as fast as I could to my grandpa.
Boy, you ran from
Later
mine.
on, I found out that after my phone cut out on my mom, she sent my grandpa to check on me. Once I told my grandpa that a little girl had gotten into the house, we went around the house searching for her, but we never found anything. All the windows and the doors were locked, the garage was closed tight, and nothing was broken into. I hate being home alone now, and being in my room, but I've learned to deal.
Oh, guys, she's possessed. Another one.
When I was about 9 years old, I was in my swimsuit, ready to go to swimming lessons. My brother and I had made a pillow fort, and it was still there from the night before. I had crawled underneath the coffee table, where a blanket went over it, blocking out the outside world. I have no idea why I stuck my foot outside of the blanket, but I did. A dark black sock crawled creepily towards my foot and slowly slid over it. The sock was cold, and I felt odd. I recognized the sock. It looked just like the one my mom had. I called out my mom's name and my brother's name, but there was no response, only silence. I walked to the window, but when I looked out, there was nothing out of the ordinary. I saw my cat staring at me with a weird look on her face.
Oh my gosh.
Then, I was horrified when I heard the shower running upstairs. My mom was still in the shower, and my dad was at work. I ran up the stairs to find my brother spinning on the chair in my parents' room. I asked him if he went downstairs, and he told me he had nothing to do with the situation.
Oh my god.
I told my mom what had happened, but she didn't believe me. She said that I was probably hallucinating and that it was just the cat. But I know what I
Wow,
saw,
Her too.
and the look on my cat's face is still fresh in my memory.
Okay, yeah, that's not good. The next one.
I'm 24, and this happened 5 years ago when I was 19. I was conducting an online transaction on a site called Alks, which is similar to Craigslist. It's an online app where you can see items being sold by random strangers, and all you have to do is make a call and meet up. I was looking for a cheap sweater for my trip to Japan the following week. After several minutes of scrolling, I came across an ad with exactly what I was looking for. A Korean-style female fur sweater for just 300 pesos, about $6.
Don't do it, girl.
It was perfect. I had issue with it. The meetup point was at the LRT train station at 8 p.m. because the seller was too busy at work. I decided, what the heck? It's a public place anyway. I called the owner and we had a quick convo. He sounded like a strict guy, but I asked him when we could meet up. He responded, tonight at 8 p.m. sharp. I said sure. But this recklessness of mine is what I regret the most. I arrived.
Okay, guys, we're talking. This is the kind of situation you do not want to get involved in. Like, honestly, never ever do this. I've seen people do this before, and it's never good. Let you know right now. All right, let's continue.
Arrived at the meeting place at 7:58 p.m. It was really empty, and I was sure I was the only person in the station. It was a cold night in November, and I eagerly awaited warming myself with my coat. Honestly, I'm the kind of girl who's comfortable wearing a sweater even when it's hot. I was sitting on a bench when the clock ticked 8 o'clock, when suddenly someone covered half of my face with a scarf with a really strange scent. I fell unconscious. As I woke up, I found myself in a van with 4 guys, my wrists handcuffed behind my back. I asked the man what they wanted and to please let me go. Tears began to fall from my eyes. But then, one of the guys touched my face and said, "It's our first time ever tasting a beautiful girl like you." I kept on crying and shouted, "Please, I want to go home, please." The guy next to me choked me, shouting that I needed to shut up. I tried to resist, but my eyes started to roll back in my head. He stopped, but it was taking a long time for me to catch my breath. I looked out the window and saw a checkpoint lane. For the first time in my life, I was so glad that the authorities had permission to check the van. But the guy next to me reached for a gun, a really big gun. Knowing this was my only chance, I found the strength to shout and cried out, "Officer, please help! They have a gun!" The two officers immediately grabbed their guns, one shooting at the tires, the other aiming for the man next to me. The officer shot him in the head. I never thought I'd witness such a thing in my life. One of the officers carried me out of the van, and I passed out moments later. I woke up the next day in a hospital bed. My parents were there, crying and asking me what happened. I told them the truth, that I was buying a sweater online. But I suddenly snapped. I cried and cried, saying, "Please help, please help." Since then, I've had to go to a psychiatrist to recover from mental instability and anxiety. And it should go without saying, but I never ever want to buy anything online, ever again.
Let me show you how to block this ad. First, you're going to click on this video, then you're going to download Pi. It's an ad block.
Yeah, I would never do that either. But since it's she did the right thing, I'm glad she was safe.
Blocker that's
Crazy old guy.
When I was 7 or 8 years old, my parents used to take me to this beach cafe in our town. It had a pool and the cafe was right next to the beach. The family that owned the cafe were my family's close friends, so I spent a lot of my childhood there. The best part about the beach is that when you passed the cafe and the playground, there was a lot of sand and a net for volleyball. As kids, my friends and I would always play there. One ordinary summer night, there was quite a few of us playing in the sand, making castles and doing other things. All of a sudden, I heard a noise behind me in the bushes, right where the sand ended. I should mention that there were woods around the whole place, but it wasn't deep or anything. I was a brave kid, so I just brushed it off as being a cat or animal of some sort, and continued to play. However, when I looked up at my friends, who were now quiet and staying still, I got the chills. I noticed that all of their eyes had widened. They were staring at me, or rather at whatever was behind me. The shock kicked in, and I felt like I was going to faint. I started shaking. I didn't even want to turn around. But when I felt something cold on the back of my neck, that was the last straw. I started running full speed towards the cafe filled with people, and my friends immediately followed behind me. There were 6 children crying and screaming at the top of our lungs. I remember finally clinging to my mom and crying in her arms. Soon after, the sound of sirens, followed by police cars parked in front, filled the air. When the adults talked to the police, my friends and I were confused. I still didn't know what was behind me, so I asked my oldest friend in the group, who was 10 years old and talking to his dad. It turns out there was this crazy old guy who robbed a lady and stabbed her to death not so far away from here. My friends told me he appeared behind me smiling like a sick clown. He was holding a knife and pressing it against the back of my neck. And that must have been the cold thing I felt. From then on, I never stayed far away from the cafe when the sun went down. And thankfully, they caught the guy.
Alright, this is the last time I'm gonna interrupt the show, but I want to show you guys really cool. So, if you want to make your own handheld light, just get a cup like this, any cup, grab a light like this light right here, put it in the cup, make sure you turn the light on first, put it in the cup, you have your own homemade light. It may not look much, but at nighttime, if you put a light, like I made my own light, the cup, you don't need the cup if you don't want it. You just put the cup back wherever you got it from. I have mine in my room. This light right here, this disco light, lights up your whole room at nighttime, and it's like a light show. It's like very cool. You will not believe. All right, enough of that. Let's get back to the video.
This happened a little over 20 years ago. I was 10 years old and my sister was 6. We grew up in a small town, raised only by our hardworking mother.
Anything like that?
It started when school was nearly finished for the year. The nights were late because my sister was up all night crying about a witch. Anyway, my mother started receiving odd calls once in a while at work.
I need one of your children.
Mom figures it was some stupid prank and ignored it. But then she started receiving calls daily. Eventually, she was receiving a call most nights at our home. She reported it to the police, and they said whoever
Girl,
was
stop
calling was
calling.
using random
Leave them at home,
payphones.
jeez.
There wasn't much they could do about it. So she had both her work and home number changed. One night around 10 or so, there was a frantic knock on our door. Mom looked out through the window and saw a lady with long hair in her 60s. Not knowing her, Mom went near the locked door and asked what she wanted. The lady asked if she could come in, said she would call the police for her, and told her to wait outside. There was a pause.
No, don't call the cops.
Mom thought this was strange and started walking to the phone. Immediately again, a bang on the door. Mom ran to the phone and looked out the window to see the lady staring at her. She coldly said,
Dorothy Margaret, I want one of your children. Dorothy Margaret, I want one of your children.
She kept repeating it
Yeah,
until Mom
how-
noticed
Yeah,
flashing lights of
in my hand.
police and she left. The police searched everywhere
It's
and
the
kept a
this is
car
one of the
outside
things
each
they
night for a
use for,
week.
Sesame.
Nothing.
It's like a little.
A few weeks later,
Wait,
summer
what?
finally
What?
started and my sister wasn't having the
What?
nightmares
It's
anymore
just
about the
Sesame.
witch.
So I'm squeezing it to calm myself
We were
down.
at one of my baseball games and my mother was talking to a teacher at my sister's school and telling her what happened. The teacher said,
Oh, it sounds like your stepmother.
Mom looked back confused and said she doesn't have a stepmother. The teacher's face turned
No,
white.
hold on, I'm gonna get
A while ago,
that thing.
a lady in her 60s would come watch the children play at lunch. She said she was my mother's stepmom and liked to watch my sister at lunch. She reported it again to the police camera footage. Sure enough, on a faraway park bench, there was an old lady most lunchtimes. They noticed she was always coming from the woods, so the police did a search and found an old shanty shack type of place. It had old blankets and a fire pit, and it had pictures she had drawn of us. Last time we ever heard of her. When summer was ending, my sister started having the nightmares of the witch again. Mom asked why she was getting scared again, and she said,
Terrible creep
because she comes
at a McDonald's restaurant.
Right, left one. Good. Left one.
to school and watches us.
I was running
Last one.
errands with my husband one day when I was 6 months pregnant. The day started out normal as we took the subway together. All of a sudden, I felt nauseous and I could feel that I had to vomit immediately. I quickly gave my bag to my husband and told him I had to run to the nearest bathroom. I away at the next stop as I could not hold it in any longer. As I exited the underground, I ran into the nearest restaurant, a McDonald's. I hurried to the bathroom, where I passed a middle-aged man who was standing at the entrance of the bathroom. I paid no attention and pushed past him to get in. As I finally arrived to the bathroom, I immediately started puking. I never felt so sick my entire life. That's when the door handle of the bathroom started moving. I quickly pushed the door to keep it closed and yelled that it was busy. but the person on the other side pushed back. As that person managed to push harder, I saw the guy that was at the entrance. He had curly hair. I freaked out and slammed the door shut and started yelling for help. The man was insistent and kept trying to get in. I started puking again, so I was left with trying to hold the door with my foot as he kept banging it harder and harder. I continued yelling in the direction of the window of the stall as I heard people saying that there was a girl who needed help. Suddenly, the guy stopped banging the door and everything got quiet. I tried to calm myself down while still holding the door shut just in case. Then I saw curly hair and a hand trying to get me from under the door, which had a pretty large gap. I started screaming again as I started kicking his face. At this point, I was desperate. I had no phone, no bag, and my husband was probably roaming the city looking for me. Then I heard a man yell, and the creep suddenly getting away quickly. I kept the door shut when I heard a male voice telling me to come out and that it was okay. I reluctantly opened the door to find the manager of the McDonald's confused and shocked. I told him what happened and he called the police. With all the commotion, my husband finally found me. When the police arrived, I gave the police a description, but they never found the guy.
Alright, guys, so just in case that you should never, if you're, in that, if you're in these situations, if you're ever in one of these, please do the right thing, call the police, do something. Never ever do any of these things, ever. But these are not true stories. These are horror stories animated, they're not true. But if you ever are in any of these problems, do something and be smart. But that's what I have for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me on the stream. And if you have any questions, please make a like and comment, and maybe I'll give you a shout out. Alright, I gotta go. And I'll see you next one. Peace.